Welcome to this edition of On Point with Kartikeya, and I'm joined by Mahbouba Seraj from Kabul. She's a pioneer, she's a women rights activist. She started radio service, which was known as our beloved Afghanistan. She also opened women learning listening circle. She also, started this process of participation of women in peace jirga. So a lot of things have been done by her. She was in exile, she came back, spend time with women. She has a volume of work behind her. So let me begin this edition by asking you, what made you stay put in Kabul?
You know, in 1978, when the communists came to Afghanistan, I had no choice at that time but to leave the country, because actually I was put in prison, and from prison directly, I went to the airport, literally. So because, in those days, being from the family that I belonged to and all of that, the communists of Afghanistan did not agree with who I was and what I was and all of that. So they wanted to get rid of me. And then I had no choice, so I had to leave the country. This time, however, I would like to see this whole thing through. I want to be here. I want to see how it's going to turn out. I want to see what we are going to do as Afghans. I want to see where we are going to take this country. Because for the past 40 plus years, this country has been in the hands of other powers. Russians were here first, and then the rest of the world was here. And then, then Pakistan had a whole lot to do, of course. And then the Americans came. So now maybe it's in our hands. So let's see, what we are going to do. So that's why I would like to stick around and be with my sisters and my daughters, the Afghan daughters and sisters that I have, and just see what we are going to do with this country.
But Madam, tell us, your work like a beloved Afghanistan, women listening circle. What happens to these initiatives?
Those initiatives, they really were fantastic at the time they were on. They did their for the purpose that they were created. It was beautifully, worked, and it worked really great. And one of the outcome of it, one of the results of it, are all of these educated women and the women of Afghanistan who know their rights and who can stand for themselves, and you can be independent and knowledgeable and educated women. So as far as that is concerned, that did its work. So now it's time to start something else, something new, something that is going to be taking care of the demands of whoever the women of Afghanistan are going to be from here onwards. So that is also something that I'm looking forward to see what else we can do, how else we can help the women. Because, the 18 million women of Afghanistan, not all of them are outside of the country, they're all here. And I'm sure they will be needing help one way or another, especially with a system that we still don't know how positive they're going to look at the women of Afghanistan and their achievements and their education. So we might have to, be next to them along the way to make sure that this happens. So that's going to be my job here.
It's very brave and courageous of you to stay put. But after 2003, there was one thing which happened for women, which was mobility. You could travel all across Afghanistan, a section of women, not everyone. And then, the sort of network you establish, so the women could talk, share experiences, think about new vocation, new dreams and new lives. Now, in absence of that mobility, how do you intend to help your sisters?
Well, we will see how it goes. Honestly, I can't just say that, even then, I used to go to them. So maybe now also I might be the one that still goes to them. I'm an old woman, so why would they want to stop me? Going to the villages and going to and talking to the women of Afghanistan. I don't see any reason why they would do that. They didn't do it in those days. I could go, and I had only one driver, and the driver, I used to get it in every province I would arrive. In every province, I used to have, take one driver, and the same driver that I would be using over and over again. And I would it would be him and I in a car in Afghanistan. And we would be, going and driving and going to the villages, going to different areas, going and talking to the women. And and being with them. It was one of the most amazing and one of the most fulfilling works that I have ever done in my life. So, I'm really looking forward to it if they do allow it right now. And there is going to be a need for it, I know, and we can do the same thing. So I can go to them again. It's not a problem.
Globally, whenever there is a transition in a country which has gone through or undergone violence, that there are a number of issues which come up. One remains the dominant issue. For example, Vietnam, Korean War, or war in Libya. You have faces to it. Afghanistan is one place where women or the gender has become a very big issue. What happens to the women of Afghanistan? What will happen to the women who trained themselves in the last 20 years in different walks of life? What happens to that constituency? How do you see that issue resolving it when now Taliban are firmly in control?
Well, if there is a worry, that's the main worry for me. If there is any concern, that's the main concern for me. Because that is, this bunch of women, they are the treasures of Afghanistan. These women should not disappear. They should not become, unknown and just go under. These women are still full of energy. These women are still young. These women can still work. The ones that they are in Afghanistan and they stay here and they remain here, I hope that we could just put our hands together, which we will, inshallah, and we can do that and make it work. And the ones that they are outside of Afghanistan, the world is getting very small right now with the system of communication and everything. And they're going to be with us. I know that. Every single woman that has left Afghanistan and they're outside, they're going to be with us. And they're going to be working for the women of Afghanistan. And I hope they continue that. So if they continue that, then we can maybe, raise the new generations of women, that they are going to be exactly as powerful, even more powerful than the women that they were here. So this way, this whole legacy of the Afghan women should not be broken. The legacy of Afghan women is going to be one of the most important legacies in the world, because this legacy is going to change the face of the history of Afghanistan, the face of how this country is governed, what's going to be the future of this country. All of that is going to be changed by this legacy. So God give them help, in power and strength, and they're going to be with us. So I'm not worried about that.
You're sounding optimistic, but there was a photograph which was published and received a lot of attention internationally. It was about the meeting which the education minister took. And then people said a year ago when the same meeting took place, half the hall was occupied by women. And this time, there were no women there.
I know. But then that is also something that, in the very beginning. We are still waiting to see what the Taliban are going to do. Are they going to really allow us, for them to get their bearings and to see where they are? This is actually, it's a courtesy. It is a courtesy from the world. It's a courtesy from the people of Afghanistan. It's a courtesy from the women of Afghanistan that is given to Taliban for them to find their bearing. And if they continue doing that, and there will be no woman in the education, there will be no woman, talking about the social changes. There will be no woman in the health sector. It's not going to work. Their politics, they can keep it for themselves for now. But everything else in this country, the women are going to have a part in it. And we are going to make sure that happens. But right now, it's just as for them, we are letting them find their bearing. And we also want to measure to see where we are as far as they are concerned. So that's exactly what is happening. I'm actually looking at all of this and watching it and being very, very aware of it, of what's going on, really.
I recall an interview of yours, I think a month back, you said it's going to set us 200 years back. But now that's a reality. Now you got to deal with it and you are being there. So the reality is that Taliban has got very fixed idea of what a gender should be, what women should do, what they should not do. Now, when we talk about, and you are a women rights activist, it's not only about basic rights, it's about choices and desire. So where do the desire and the choice goes?
I don't know right now. Right now, I'm just thinking of the basic rights. These things, Afghanistan is not the first time that is going through an era like this. We did this 20 years ago. We really did. We went through it. 30 years ago, actually. We went through it. And before that also, in my time, when I left Afghanistan, the same thing happened because actually the most knowledgeable, the most bright of the Afghanistan society, the cream over the milk was thrown out, was taken away. So Afghanistan was left in those days also with this brain drain that is absolutely unbelievable. And so they managed that. And then we're going to manage this time also, I'm sure. It's just that we have to, this is why it's so important that right now is not only the story of Afghanistan, it's the story of something that keeps on taking place. And what is at stake here is not only that, oh, poor women of Afghanistan, they're going to lose their right. No, it's not that. It's the fundamental rights of humanity, a part of it that lives here. That is going to be in danger. And if the people in the world can see that this can be done to a small country, maybe that doesn't have much importance in the world, like Afghanistan is done, why shouldn't it be done anywhere else in the world? So, for the rest of the women of the world, this could be a very, very big awakening call. And this is what I'm counting on. This is what I'm counting on my sisters all over the world, on the women of the world, on my sisters in India, on my sisters in Pakistan, on my sisters in Iran, on my sisters in Russia, on my sisters in China, on my sisters in India, all over, in the US, in France, in Germany, everywhere. I'm counting on the women in those countries. And I want to share with them what is going on, what is really happening in the world, what are the possibilities and what they can do. I don't expect anything from the governments of these countries because they lie. But I do expect a lot from the men and women of these countries because there are some amazing human beings everywhere. And that's what I'm expecting, for them to stand in solidarity with us. So we will not allow this collapses to happen one after another. Regime changes, situation changes in countries. Countries can go, do different things, politically. But when it comes to socially, when it comes to the rights of its citizens, we are its citizens. So our rights and our demands and what we need should come number one. And if they don't know it, then we should teach them that this is how it should be.
You're relying on the idea of international sisterhood, that gender as a
because this is something that, we didn't really know, honestly, that this is what we have as a power. Do you know how powerful the women of India are? If they really put their heads together and their hands together and want to bring a change in that country, they can do it in 24 hours. I can promise you that.
India had a woman prime minister. India,
Yes.
Indira Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi ran UPA. A foreign minister, late Sushma Swaraj, was a woman. India had a defense woman minister, Nirmala Sitharaman. Our finance minister is a woman. We have chief ministers who are women.
Exactly. So India had all of that. No, what I'm saying is that even more basic than that, if they want to bring a change one day in India, they can do it. Like they have done it, and they can still do it. And everywhere in the world is the same thing. Mr. Sharma, there's not only India, but everywhere. And the only places in the world that this is not happening are the Islamic countries. And that does not make the women of the Islamic country any less intelligent than those women or less capable. No, it's not that. They are as capable. They are as intelligent, at times more intelligent. They are survivors. They are women. They are people with so much, they're resilient. Their resilience is absolutely beyond belief. The Afghan woman resilience is something unheard of, unseen in this world. So this is what we really have to work on. This should not die. Things change, but this should not die. We should not die. Our spirit should not die. That's
that's very brave of you to say that, but the imminent depoliticization of women in Afghanistan is also a reality. You had a woman ambassador in the United States of America. Deputy Speaker of the first assembly was a woman. You had so many women parliamentarians. What happens to women in the politics of Afghanistan? Because generally the debate on women gets reduced to basic rights. They have the right to go out and eat, but that's just one part of being a human. What about the politics?
It's true. The politics is going to be coming, and we are going to take care of that. But the one thing I'm going to tell to my sisters that they had, a role in the politics of Afghanistan. I am so sorry, sisters. You did not play your role right. You still gave yourselves in the hands of the men that they were powerful, and you thought they were your supporters, and you did not take the issue of women as the number one priority and stood by it like the way you should have. You did not create another person to take your place. You did not train another woman to take your place. You were too afraid to lose your spot that you had. So that's why you didn't spread this. You held on to it for yourselves. That's our weakness, and that's where we lost. Because if you don't do that, how can you have demand that the next generation, the next person can take your place? These women, they held on to their powers with their lives, and they didn't want to give it up. That's where the mistake was. And that's what broke us. That's why the voices didn't go through. That's what happened. That's why we are where we are, and the women are getting out of Afghanistan, and the only one white-haired woman is sitting over here and saying, let's hold on to that. Because it's very important. They should have known. And so many times we talked about this. So many times, I cannot tell you. But power.
Whom do you talk to? Like, for example, I'll bring this discussion down to something basic. Something like birth centers, nurses, doctors for women health, gynecologists. Yeah. I'm talking about the basic things which are required. Women health centers,
Yeah.
Where do you get them? And a person like you, who do you talk to about these things?
Well, to tell you the honest truth, so far, right from the time this whole thing has started, let me tell you the honest truth, what I'm doing. Right now, I'm just actually watching everywhere where the women are being used, where the women are allowed. Are the women allowed in the hospitals? Yes. Are the women allowed in the nursing field? Yes. Are the women allowed in teaching? Yes and no, because up to 6th grades are on and the rest of it is not. Is the women are allowed in the ministries and the offices that they're working? No. And the reason why they are not allowed is mainly at this point is really for their safety, and I believe that because still the Taliban really don't know who else is with them in their group. So that's why for the protection of the woman and for saving their name, because somebody else can come and create a chaos and finish it in the name of Taliban. So I can understand that. They also said that I think Stonexai or somebody, one of their heads, said that, in the new government, there is not going to be any women ministers. I am, right now they're beginning the government. There's not going to be any women ministers. Very fine, because the women, they were ministers. They were the ministers in the previous government. Those are the powerful women and this government does not want to use the same women. And I don't blame them. That's perfectly fine. But at the same time, the women can become deputy ministers. That should be allowed. And they don't even know that, that how helpful the deputy ministers can be. And the deputy ministers can be a great help and a great asset to have in the ministries. We can start from there. And the women, right now in the universities, they're talking about, well, boys and girls should not be in the same class. Okay, fine. Boys and girls, there's only maybe in a class of maybe 20, there's only 6 girls and the rest of them are boys. And we have only one teacher, one cadre at the university. And our cadre is very small. We don't have so many professors and so many, teachers for the higher education. We have a limited amount. So these limited professors, can actually, they can teach at universities, the boys and girls are going. So what we can do, maybe we can put a curtain in the middle of the classroom so that the boys sit on one side, the women's on the other side, and the girls on the other side, and they can do their studies. These things, because in Islam, men and women stand behind each other. Women stand behind men, and when the time comes for prayer. So if we can do that in prayer, why can't we do that in education? So these are all of the things that there are possibilities that we can actually work with it. But the only thing is right now, how shall I say, the number one needs of the people of Afghanistan is so many other things. Mr. Sharma, we don't have banks. We don't have money. We don't have a government. We don't have a system. Nothing. It's a country void of power. And you know how dangerous that is? It can create anarchy. And we don't need that. So these are the priorities. These are the dangerous parts and dangerous steps that these people have to take care of. That is why I'm sitting back and just watching. There's a lot of us, we are just sitting back and watching. I'm sure the world is watching also. Because everything depends on the steps that they're taking now, and then we are going to see what they're going to do. So this is very important. My main concern at this point really is to have a talk with one of the leaders of the Taliban, or with all of them. A bunch of us can go and talk to them. We really have to share with them our opinion, what we can do, who we are, and all of that. So this is what's happening right now.
Do you ever feel the fear of going back into exile?
I really never want to go back to exile. I don't want to be exiled from my country. For years and years, I was exiled to, quote unquote, one of the best countries in the world, and that was the United States. Not even one day passed in my life that I did not think of this country. I did not miss this country. I did not miss everything about Afghanistan. Afghanistan is mine. And I am Afghanistan's. We are inseparable. This is the only place in the world that I feel I can take a deep breath and say, oh my gosh, thank you. I'm so grateful that I'm living here. I love everything about this country. Everything. Every branch of the tree, every formation of the cloud, every smell of the first rain that drops on the dust on the streets of Kabul, every first flower that comes out in spring, and every first leaf that drops in autumn. I love it all. I love it all. The kids, the women, the men, the boys, the noises, everything, the sky, everything I love about this country. And I don't want to go back. I don't want to be forced to go in exile. I don't want to. I really don't want to. I want to be able to get out of the country because I have my family outside. And as a human being, I hope they allow me to go out and to come back in. But to go in exile and not live here, no, I don't want to. I want to spend the rest of my life here, and I want to die here. That's what I want.
Thank you so much, and best of luck for a brave new journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma. Thanks.